aloha, good morning. Welcome to the KNF office hours for June 5th, 2022. And special day for me. It's my parents' 40th anniversary. So special shout out to those loving parents that we work together here on the farm and love them so much. And wherever they are out there. They're actually still up in Washington area cruising around. They were just up there for our wedding. Susan and I just got married this past weekend, and that's why I wasn't here last Sunday. I was doing something way more important in my life. Maybe not in your life, but you know, and just got a call from Dr. Park yesterday. And he was saying, he's like, oh, I told him, he checked in with me. He was going to send over some folks from University of Nations to check out my farm, get natural farming and going across Hilo and Kona side and getting people together. And he said, I told him, he's like, what have you been up to? And I was like, I got married, Dr. Park. And he said, hey, well, great. Now we can get the second generation Korean natural farmers going. And I was like, hey, not so fast, not so fast. But yeah, so it's good. It's good to be with Suze and all that, and to really get our stuff together. But before we get too deep into that, let's start with some higher inspiration here and see what the I Ching has in store. And you know, it's not always the best one, but today is obstruction. So somehow this is what we needed to hear. And so we're going to go with this. It says, surrounded by obstructions, one must first retreat and then seek the direction of the sage. So there's an old saying which fits this hexagram, that you are caught between a rock and a hard place. In other words, you are surrounded by obstructions. As much as you may want to blame others for the difficulty, my battery's also at 15%. So as much as you may want to blame others for the difficulty, in all likelihood, the true obstruction is in your own thinking. What is called for now is a retreat into self-examination and self-correction. Emotions of desire, fear, or anger may tempt you to take action now. But do not be seduced. The presence of these strong feelings is proof that you are. That's a typo in this book right here. It should be you are off balance and need to steady yourself. As long as you try to forcibly achieve results, rather than carefully following the higher truth step by step, you will be obstructed from making personal progress. Whether we indulge in judgments about others, whenever we indulge in judgments about others, we obstruct our own peace of mind and progress. We should choose instead to see the best in others. Allow them to come and go as they will, and turn our energies inwards towards self-improvement. Often, the faults in our own thinking are only revealed with the aid of others. You would be wise now to seek the advice of a qualified counselor, a truth-minded friend. Retreat, self-examination, and self-correction will remove the obstructions that block your path now. So who knows? As a collective, when I kind of get this guidance in the morning, it's like, I just say, what's when I pick one of these at one of 64 at random here, at random by I kind of believe we live in a simulation of ones and zeros and binary bits and all these things. And so the I Ching really lines up with this thing. And, if you think about it, we have 64-bit computers. That's like the most advanced tech there is out there. And there's 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. So 64 of these things all wrapped, the 8 on the 8 and doubling and all this, 8 bytes, 8 bits, same 8 bits in a piece of the I Ching fit in there. So who knows who that was for? I'm feeling pretty good. Not necessarily. I mean, I guess to a degree I am a little bit obstructed just getting back from being away for 10 days away from my farm, and nobody does it like I do. Get back and it's like, oh, disaster planning, and the grass is way overgrown, and things that I should have put in the ground before I left, I should have, done, and all these things, right? So there's always more to it, and one of the hardest things as a farmer is leaving your farm and trusting someone else to hold it down the way you do. The same care and attention, knowing where tools are to fix things, knowing all these things. Um, but hey, it's a great day. My parents' anniversary, just got married. I'm stoked. Check it out. Got a ring. Yep, Sue's made this for me. Super cool. And also, you may have noticed I got a different hat on today. It's a little bit backwards, I know, because I mirror this image because it looks better this way with the light being covered by this logo versus being just blaring at you there. But this is from Royal Flush Farms. And so I was able to check in with Spencer and Yarrow and Earl. Shout out to you guys at Royal Flush. They're up in on the border of Oregon and Washington. And Spencer came to my wedding. He was actually the officiant, and helped us get all that together. And he brought a bunch of natural farm pork with him. So the whole time we were there, we were eating just like bacon, thick cut, real nice. He smoked it himself, cured it, did all the whole 9 yards. It was just epic. We had pork chops. He brought a whole bunch of eggs. Not only that, he brought a bunch of tinctures that he made. He's kind of into those, that special flour that YouTube demonetizes you about talking about. He brought a bunch of that stuff, brought some salves that he made, and it's so nice to connect with, my natural farming brethren and have them be a part of the whole family and all that. So I really, really appreciate that. And if you're in that region, the Idaho Boise region, check out Royal Flush Farms, Spencer, Earl, and Yarrow. And in fact, if you want to learn about their kind of story, on the Microbial Secret Society, when they were here in Hawaii, we did a little podcast. So let me just pull this up here and show you. So I'm just gonna transition this over here, share like this. And on the microbial secret here of this episode here, episode number 27, and they're talking about this thing that I can't mention on YouTube and how to do IPM and how they transitioned from hydroponics into Korean natural farming and all that. And this is just a great episode with, they got the little pigs and this thing that I can't talk about on YouTube and all this. And I think Mark knows him, and it's all great. So so if you're into hearing more, you can get the first hour free on microbialsecret.org, and if you do become a subscriber, you can get the full episode. And just talking, like, look at these guys. I mean, look at these guys. They're just doing their thing, right? I'm not sure how that turns out for you when I do that, but yeah, look there. I zoomed it out. They got the hats. These guys, they came to the wedding. They're doing their thing. Earl's rocking both this other guy and my garb at the same time, and just peacemakers. Peacemakers. That's what natural farming is about. Just having peace with each other. So wanted to, just give a shout out to them and all the magic we made this past week. And yeah, hey, yeah. So also another thing I wanted to say, Joe's talking about just gassing up his car for $85. And says good thing, Drake thank God that Drake taught me how to grow food for almost nothing. Politicians suck, but don't forget, you're the government, right? But I did want to just mention to you guys, this video analytics here that, like, for some reason, 2 weeks ago when I did this office hour on, what day was it? May 22nd. For some reason, this one got 1,700 views. Like, something happened, like, look at it going up and then it kind of peaked out here. But 1,700 views on this thing, which is like super rare for my things. Like, usually, like, if I look back at the other analytics here and you can see my other view counts from other office hours, they're around like 500, 800, 450. For some reason, that one just about doubled. And, maybe it was the topics I was talking about. Maybe it was the passion I put into it. But if you haven't checked out last 2 weeks ago, Office Hour, May 22nd, check it out because it talks all about inflation, how to do this stuff. I got on a roll. I was just like, all right, how are we going to walk on the tail of the tiger, right? That was number 10. We threw the I Ching, and got into that, and it was deep. So, but share it with friends, family. Look at this thumbnail. Maybe that's why it got so many views. It's like so emotional. It's like, maybe this week we'll get this same thumbnail going, right? Um, but I'm gonna transition this back here a little bit, get back to the big screen, and yeah. So anyway, and then also last week I was talking to you guys about sending in some videos so I can help share what you're doing. Yeah, and the regenerative pig is just amazing. The bacon, the tenderloin. Oh, I only got one small slice of it because the rest of the family was just gobbling it up. It was a whole bunch of people at the wedding, right? So a bunch of people came over the next day and hanging out, and I only got one little bit of it, but oh, was it good? Just, about to harvest a pig here pretty soon. When maybe in the next 2 weeks we're gonna harvest a pig, and looking forward to that lard, that nourishing lard to put the good brain food in there. Um, Before I get into this, it's also Eyewitness said he just ordered potassium hydroxide for soap. Anything to look out for besides breathing it in or getting it in the eyes, like storage, how to go about it if I accidentally spill it on my scale, etc. So that's a great question about potassium hydroxide. Always have some vinegar with you next to you. If you remember that scene in Fight Club where Tyler Durden kisses the guys with no names, Cornelius's hand, and then pours the powder on him and it starts burning and giving him a chemical burn. That's potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide. I'm not sure which he was using. It depends what they're probably using sodium hydroxide because they were making solid bar soap. But both those have violent chemical reactions with water. If you've ever used an MRE, meal ready to eat military heater, and you've poured the water into the MRE and you see how hot it gets almost immediately, that's potassium hydroxide most likely creating that heat. So it reacts with water. So when you're storing it, keep it super dry. Do not let water get into it. Make sure it's sealed. Anytime you're operating with it, goggles, even a respirator, be careful, gloves. But always have some vinegar next to you. If more water will not put out, yeah, his cell's going down. More water will not put out the potassium hydroxide. Only vinegar will reverse that reaction. It's super alkaline reaction, so that acid balances the pH back out. So thanks for asking that. That's a good one. Yeah, and everyone knows how hard it is to leave your farm. The weeds grow like a foot. It does. It's, luckily I came back. Most of my animals were still alive. We lost about a dozen chickens, and the cows are still alive as far as I know. I haven't checked in with them. I put them out in pasture where they had access to the river. I gotta move them today, but it's been rainy here. It's really, maybe I'm between a rock and a hard place, trying to do too much. I got a bunch of mowing to do, and it's not gonna work out with the rain. And it's better I just wait till better weather. So everyone, how hard it is to get away. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in Jesus blessing our marriage, in our vows, um, we promise to marry God first, before each other, and really, I think that's the foundation and core. If you really, truly, sincerely believe in this higher power, this higher divine source, this, and whatever words you use. I mean, certain people are real attached to certain words and like these things, but to me, it's about this. The God within us, the God about us, the that spirit, the words of Jesus, the actions he took of love thy neighbor, follow the golden rule. If we put that above all of our silly stuff and then we come together through that, I think it's going to be a lasting marriage. So yeah, I really thank you for that. And so what I did want to do, now that I've been going at this for about 15 minutes or so, is I wanted to share this video with you. I haven't watched it yet, but Post Up Media reached out last week. I was talking about getting some help with video editing, and that's something they do, and they sent me this video. So I haven't watched this yet. Let me transition this over here. So we're here together, and I'm gonna watch this to make sure the sound comes through, which I don't think it's going to. Let me just double check that the sound comes through with you guys on this. But it's the first time I'm watching this. This is his IMO 3, A Visual Journey is what this video is called. So, and I don't think the sound is coming through on that one. So let me double check here and get. Let me just let's see here, because I want. I think this one, yeah. Okay, so this one has it. So you guys, I won't be in the picture here at all, but that's okay. You don't need to see me this whole time. And I'm gonna transition over to this one. And did it do it? Yeah. Okay. And right monitor, podcast mic, podcast. Okay, hang on one sec. Let me add in a source here. An audio input capture. Hang on. And let me grab what's going to come out of my speakers here. And I think, oh, I just added that to the wrong one. Hang on. Okay. No, you guys should have this now because I will be in the corner. Okay. But I think you'll be able to hear the, hear what's going on. So let me see. No. Okay, the sound's still not coming through for you guys. Hang on one sec. Let me see if I can figure this out. Just one sec here. Sorry to do this live, but adding audio output capture, that makes sense. Not an input. And there's no output devices. Why not? Okay, well, all right, well, you guys are just gonna have to do it on mute. There's really, unless I put my headphones to the thing here. So let me delete out this guy. Well, let me just leave it as is right now, but I'm gonna put my headphones up to the thing so you guys can hear. So hang on. Oh, look at that beautiful IMO 1. Oh my gosh. Super smart to do it in a wheelbarrow like that. Get it all mixed together. This looks epic. Oh, and they got a nice tarp. Wow. Nice texture. Look at that. You got the right moisture content. Oh yeah. Nice temperature coming up. Turning it as a team. Way to go. Oh yeah, myceliating. Dang, that came out nice. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So how was that one? I mean, just awesome. When I get sharebacks like that, did you see how good his IMO 1 collection was? And then, just coming back and seeing just you see just like this is the beauty of it. Like here, sitting here in Hawaii, but able to like inspire folks around the world, inspire, like now this is happening, and now out in Panama, these indigenous microbes are going to be concentrated, go into his garden there, you know, this is what, it really like talk about doing the right things and doing, what makes sense here. That's awesome. It's awesome. It's so smart to do it in a wheelbarrow. And someone in the comments here, Stonemason's talking about the dog licking his lips was the best part. It's like, oh, that's classic. Yeah, my dog always fiends when I make it out of the dog food. He's like, I want that. It's like, no, man, we're gonna feed this to trillions of microbes. And sure, my dog will eat a little bit of it while he's going and get his bit and parts. But yeah. Okay. So and then also, uh, my good friend George, uh, up in Latvia sent me a video as well that I wanted to share with you guys. And not sure if this one has sound, but if it does, I'll see here. And so I'll transition over. He sent me this one on the Instagram, and let's see. I haven't watched this one either, so you guys get to watch it with me live. Oh, there is some sound. Let me see if I can maximize this thing. Is there a way? No, no. Oh yeah, you see that mycelia growing? Oh yeah, he totally inoculated this epic and just yeah. Yeah, so as he's taking the goat manure and putting that and then putting the ultra cheap microbes on there. Look at his beds. Look how nice that is. Wow. And he got the kids. He got the kids out there too. I mean, like what could be better than doing farming that's like available for your kids, available for you to do this? I mean, you see those microbes, you see that mycelia growing there in his sprouts. I mean, it's cold where he's at and it's already starting to take off and go and just like I mean, so I appreciate these sharebacks, and then I get to share it with everyone who's tuned into these, and so it's like it's a really nice way to like just inspire each other and to be like, hey, we got all this and we're just helping each other and when you see this and it's spreading around the world, this is last week, this is what gives me hope. This is what gives, like, it's not just me fighting the man by myself. It's like we're giving tools to each other so we can love the man, that we can feed everybody that needs it, that we can feed all this soil. He says it's hashtag save soil. And it's like, yeah, build up, grow this stuff, put those goat manure, inoculate it. It's going to break it down and make it bioavailable and just give these things to your plants and make it so much better that, and Brandon or Braden here, sorry, Braden, is talking about, he has to leave his farm for 8 months to go to Michigan. It's like, well, man, before you go, put a bunch of this microbe out there so that as your grass gets taller and if things are going to get overgrown, or if you got somebody there, it's like the microbes are going to be making it more fertile. So when you come back, it's like, at least in the meantime, if you've increased your fertility, and that's the beautiful thing about what we're doing. It's like it's so easy to really just a quick microbial solution, and you're on your way, you're making it happen, you know and yeah, and then I got one more share here. This one is coming um from Post Up Media as well here, and I just transition back to this one here. But he says, we made IMO with dog food and wood chips, wood shavings. That's what's in the video. We made a second batch 2 days ago with rice bran and wood chips. 48 hours later, check out this action. Bless up and long live the natural farmer. But look at this microbial bloom out. Like look how beautiful that is, of just and that's the cool thing about trying different materials, different things. You get to see this. But this mycelia, like look at those leaves in there. And just, I mean, this is the thing that inspires me for sure, is to see. Oh, nice. What do they call those? Gators, or uh, I don't know, those classic shoes. um, but yeah, this oh Crocs is what they call them, right? Yeah, Crocs. He's wearing some Crocs. Um, and yeah, I mean this is exactly where it is. So you know, and then here in the chat, it's like coming up to Michigan, stonemasons reaching out to say it's about 30 minutes away from the southern border. It's like if we can connect these here we are doing through the digital mycelium, but if we can bring it into the real mycelium, into like how we connect and meeting up with each other to reinforce, that's even better of what we're doing. So um so I got if there's any questions, throw them in the chat. Get into this. I mean, I know you guys mostly tuned in here, pretty regulars on this stuff, and if you watch the past office hours, you're probably pretty tuned into a lot of stuff. But I do got one more little kind of story of what I was able to do. Um, yeah, is that I was able to while I was up in Washington. Um, a couple of people recognized me actually from the YouTube. Like I got to meet people that have been tuned in through this right here, like this. And I'd never met them in real life before. Real life, whatever that is. Um, but they were like, "Oh, we watch your videos. We've seen these things." It's like getting to know folks. And I also got inspired, people doing regenerative agriculture. My buddy Tuck, that I went to like a singing circle with, he was doing like riparian reclamation of old farmland and planting new forests on it, and that's good as long as we keep enough food going. But it's cool to like see just like people that are tuned into like earth repair, people that are tuned into like knowing that we have kuleana, we have responsibility, and getting to meet people like that, where it's like we're all on the same team, we're all working towards we should be all working towards the same goal of healing the earth, stabilizing the climate, bringing water back, bringing food back, bringing abundance, all these things. So it's really inspiring to me to meet some folks that had seen what's happening here and brought that into the real world. Um, but I also spent some time like consulting, so to say. Not really. I mean, like I just wanted to help some friends out. So my wife's brother's house, one of his roommates is planting a nice garden in her backyard, and she kind of removed the sod with a machine and then was building these nice raised beds and wood chipped the whole area. And for the Pacific Northwest, like that's the way to do it, putting enough fungal material on your paths and wood chips, and like putting a couple inch layer, and then so that all comes to life. And then she kind of had these little more soil built up mounds, and what I recommended to her was to make the disgustingly cheap microbes. So sure enough, I talked to her that afternoon. She went down, bought a couple potatoes in a 5 gallon bucket, put mashed the potatoes up, put the salt in. I showed her under this old Himalayan blackberry where to get the good soil, and I showed her the difference between like this soil and that soil, how it's balled up and it's nice. And as we were pulling apart this soil that had been under this, or dying off Himalayan blackberry, you could see the mycelia in there, you could see the roots, you could see it growing. And I'm like, just this top surface layer, grab that soil, put that into the bucket. So you got your potato, salt, and this now microbial rich soil, 5 gallon bucket. Let it go, let it bubble. Sure enough, it took about 3 days for it to start to bubble. And then on the fourth day, I came over that afternoon. I was like, you should probably do it this afternoon, because I'm used to the tropics where it overheats so quickly. But turns out she did it the next day, and there was even more bubbles, and it didn't smell bad. I showed her how to tune her nose in to like, what smells good, what smells bad. Showed her all that. And then and she made it while I was there. And it's so nice to like have someone under my mentorship and tutelage to be like, hey, you can make this, you can do this. And sure enough, now she's going to take that one 5 gallon bucket and dilute it into three other buckets, so that you'll have 3 or 4 buckets that have a decent amount of it in there, and fill the rest up with water, and then drench that into her raised beds. And just like you saw in George's picture, that's what's going to bring it to life. That's really what's going to get the mycelia active, and then I recommended to her to also maybe get some straw that was around and put straw over the beds just to support, because she wants to grow like tomatoes and kales and spinaches and that flower that I can't mention here without getting demonetized, and all those things, just to like put those into the soil, put them down and grow, and then we went back couple days later when her microbe solution was bubbling, and then we went into her front yard, and there was all this spreading bamboo that was coming up, and it would put up these really sharp shoots right in their yard. And like, how are you supposed to enjoy your yard? You're gonna sit down and just get stabbed by this bamboo. So I was like, look, this is a problem for you. This is like super succulent and full of growth hormone. Let's go out there and just with a little knife cut it right at the ground level. And we all sliced a bunch of, maybe like 40 or 50 little shoots coming up, and then took those, and then took the pruning shears and cut those down into small pieces, and then mixed in, maybe like a pound and a half of sugar into this. And it started, the juice started to be osmotically drawn out, and packed that into a jar, and taught her a little bit about this fermentation. And now she has the food component to go to feed those microbes she's putting out. And then I stopped by the Hagen store, which it's like just like a mini Safeway kind of thing, and bought a thing of apple cider vinegar. And I'm like, okay, each time you add this food, like 1 shot glass per 5-gallon bucket, add an equal amount of apple cider vinegar with it. So now you got the food and the cleanser. Like, and we just purchased that because we didn't have time to make vinegar while we're there. I was only there for 10 days, and I was super busy doing other things. And so now she has this little tool set of the microbes, the food, the cleanser. And she doesn't have structure, doesn't have all these others, fuel, all these other components, but she has those tools, and those are enough to like really kickstart the mycelia growing into the soil, to really bring this to life, to really ensure that her garden is starting to get nutrient density growing, to ensure that this, it's going to come to life. And I know by teaching her and sitting there and hands-on doing it with her, that now she's a resource in that area. If other people want to learn, it's like, oh yeah, go check out Jessie. She knows what's up, and she can go and teach other people how, this, like, just by spending about a half hour of like, talking story, teaching. It took us about an hour to do all the plant juice and stuff, because we're kind of like hanging out while we did it. But now she knows, and she has all these resources. There was little aspen trees popping up in her backyard, and I was like, those are great candidates too, but gather those early in the morning, because we were there about midday, and it was like the worst time to gather. And that's why I got the bamboo, because the bamboo is much harder, much more of the growth hormone in it, versus something succulent like an aspen tree sprouting up, or these other like very flowery weeds in the backyard. I was like, do those in the morning. Get those in the morning. You'll get the growth hormones from them. But the bamboo was like good enough for midday. We got enough juice out of it and everything. So it was just like, amazing to share that with her. And then my wife's brother, I can call her my wife now, also has been making lactobacillus. So he's been making the KNF protectors, police, whatever you want to call them, LAB, there's a bunch of names for it, but they function really as our protectors. And he's been making it to put in his laundry, right? Because they want clean clothes. They want to be protected by this stuff. They want to have, why have stinky gym clothes or whatever? It's like, so he's been putting it into the laundry. And she asked me a question. She's like, well, check out our compost pile. Do you think, and someone had given her advice like, your compost is terrible and stuff. And I looked at it and I'm like, I even dug my hand into it, pulled it out, and I smelled it. And it's like, there was nothing rotten smelling about it. And I told her, if you ever do smell it and it's off-gassing where it hits your nose real sharp, like nitrogen smelling, then just take a bit of wood chips and kind of mix them in there. And she asked me, should I be turning the compost? And I was like, no, you shouldn't. Maybe your 8-year-old son should be turning the compost because he's strong and needs to get his energy out. But as an older person, don't even turn that stuff. I told her, if you want it to break down a little bit faster, I'd just leave it static, just doing what it's doing. Just continue to layer the, browns and greens, the carbon nitrogen ratio, following standard, compost recipe. I was like, if you want to accelerate it a little bit, either pour in some of these disgustingly cheap microbes in there, or take the KNF protectors that you're using for your laundry and just dilute that, one shot glass into a 5 gallon bucket and just water it over that, and that will kickstart it to start the lactobacillus will really help your compost break down about twice as fast, especially up there because it was cold, man. I mean, for me, I mean, shoot, I'm here I am in the t-shirt here in the same year, but it was cold up there. I could see my breath. I go pee in the yard and it's like steaming and stuff. Like this, like to me that's cold, and so to see these different climates and to see these different things and to be able to take solutions that work here and bring them there and have solutions work there. I mean, what an opportunity, what a gift that we can do all that, right? So yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you guys are getting together and gonna share some solutions maybe. Yeah, and the disgustingly cheap microbes, man, they're great for casual gardeners. You don't need much skill. It's really, it's kind of set it and forget it. You put it in the bucket, stir it around, you're good to go, right? So getting these solutions out and getting people in with something that's simple that they can do. It's great to go through IMO 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way up and get your indigenous microbes and that way to do it. And they're much more powerful and they're much more potent. But it also requires like 2 weeks and 3 weeks and like really intensive, if the temperature gets too high, it's like it's ruined. And so just doing the disgustingly cheap microbes, just showing people, hey, look, it's so cheap, it's so easy, um, doing it. So, yeah. So Mitchell here is saying I have a bunch of date seeds and I live in a zone that can't grow them without a greenhouse. So I'm curious if I have a recommendation for seed fermentation or an extraction I can put them in. Um, Well, I mean, there's an interesting thing of like if you sprout them to do like sprouted seed tea, and when seeds sprout, they put out a lot of different hormones. If you can sprout them and then take that, it's interesting because dates are a palm, so they're kind of more primitive in terms of like you had ferns, then palms, then leafies, then flowering, then deciduous, and all these, this different succession throughout. It depends, if how much of that you believe and all that, but it seems logical to me. um so you could do a sprouted seed tea kind of thing, and or I don't know what to do with the date seeds particularly. Maybe uh, put them on Etsy or eBay, or sell them to someone else who does want to grow them. I don't know. um yeah. um but there are, yeah, sprouting it, making a sprouted seed tea kind of thing, and or figuring out how to grind them up a little bit, or I'm not exactly sure what to do. In my case I'd feed them to my pigs, right? Whatever I do with stuff I don't know what to do and it's edible, I feed it to the pigs, they'll eat it. um you know so yeah, so it's nice, you guys exchanging those things and getting those together. um yeah, getting the right IMOs or actually not exchanging the IMOs, but getting the lactobacillus and getting the inputs. I'm glad, and I call them solutions. I know some people call them inputs. I call them solutions because other people have problems, but we have solutions. So anyway, just a little vocabulary thing there. Inputs, it's like things that go in that, it's like you're always going to have to put this input. It's like solutions. Like I'm solving problems in the soil. I'm not trying to like add too much to it. I'm just trying to solve problems, create balance, let the ecosystem roll. That's solution oriented, right? And when you dissolve it, you're making a solution, right? The inputs go into a solution of water, and then you have solutions. Anyway, it's kind of like this interesting chemistry there. um and yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, making a huge difference when you use these things. I'm stoked, Goofman in here. Like it's so fun to see you guys in here doing this stuff. And um so Thomas Eyewitness is saying, I recently got done with the Elaine Ingham playlist. I went to my buddy's water treatment plant and checked out his microscope. In this season of my life, I'm watching and expecting a kid, but slowly preparing. That's super cool. Did you? I don't know if you had a camera there, Thomas, but if you have any pictures, could share. Share that back of what you saw, what you see with your solutions. I'm glad you have a microscope available to just borrow and use. Because eventually, when you get real good at you know natural farming and stuff, you don't necessarily need all these. You don't need to look at the microscope every time. It's like it's really good for doing compost tea analysis, compost analysis, but and also once you make IMOs, then kind of growing them out with a little bit of food to see how they sprout, because they're pretty dormant in its solid form. Um, but yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, all edible with the kids doing all that. Yeah, so good to check in with you guys there. So Brock, that's a good question, Brock. Raw milk for lacto cultivation. Um, what should be considered if using raw milk? Should raw milk be avoided? Okay, so I one of my mentors teaching natural farming was Gil Karangdang, and he would always say, like if you can sell the raw milk for more, sell it, and then buy pasteurized milk. I mean, he would always say that about honey. People would ask, "Can I use honey instead of sugar?" And he's like, "Look, honey's worth way more. Sell the honey, buy sugar." So number one consideration is price. If you're milking the cow and you're able to get raw milk for free, because you're milking the cow and doing this stuff, then go for it, do it. But if you're buying it at a higher price, you may as well buy pasteurized, homogenized milk, even though it seems kind of gangster. But it comes down to price and what you want to do. Raw milk also has different types of bacteria in it that are not necessarily lactobacillus. There's other things like acidophilus. There's these other different cultures that live in the raw milk. There's whatever bacteria you introduced in the milking process, what was on your hands, what was on the teats, what was going in. A lot of the reason they banned raw milk was because they said it was propagating tuberculosis, which is only if you have really bad practices or a huge dairy farm that's beyond what it should be. There's really next to no threat of tuberculosis if you're doing raw milk correctly. But it can be used. It can be used. Your separation, you may have a little bit more streaks. It may not all turn into curds, and your curds themselves, the cheese that comes at the top, may be a little softer. Like you can put your finger through it, but none of that's a problem. The lactobacillus that you get at the bottom is going to be broad family, and it's going to be great. So I think using raw milk is a good thing. Should it be avoided? No, I mean unless you're gonna drink it all. I mean that's the only reason I'd avoid it is like, man, I'm gonna make some, throw it in the blender, throw some bananas in there, frozen bananas, a little bit of cinnamon, and I'm gonna eat the raw milk. Maybe throw a raw egg in there, blend that up. Oh man, talk about just like nutritious food. Raw milk, raw egg, a little bit of bananas, a little bit of cinnamon. Whew, that is like that's where it's at, you know. Um, so and yeah, like Eyewitness said, there is a chance of it becoming a little bit more yogurty, but no problem with that. It'll work. Um, yeah, the word and Mark's saying the words are spells. Why do you think it's called spelling? It's totally true. We have to be, careful with everything, and the vocabulary we use is very important. That's what I was talking about last week. Blockchain. It's like it's in the spelling, right? You're chaining yourself to a block. Is that really what we want to be? The technology of the future? Maybe, maybe not. And yeah, cool. So yeah, and then flat power. Maybe it's the flat Earth. It's more of a snow globe Earth if you ask flat Earth people. And then they'll tell you the moon is mysterious, which is amazing because to me the moon makes so much sense. One of my best-selling apps on the phone is actually this Hawaiian moon calendar that I have here. And the moon makes total sense when you understand around Earth and how the moon cruises around and how it goes through phases and those things. But I'm open to any perspective. I'm not saying I'm right on this. I can twist my head into thinking that the Earth is flat. It just makes math very challenging and very hard. Um, and so with what I know from just being kind of a nerd and studying this stuff, and not to say I'm like indoctrinated with certain things. I mean, maybe I am, but just so much logical sense. And you look out and you see all these round things. So anyway, not to get too much into that, but someone did mention flat power. So I always think that anytime you're talking about flat things, it's usually about the flat Earth, which I actually heard the flat Earth was introduced as like these intellectuals that were in a club called Mensa introduced it to just see if how many people they could convince the Earth was flat. It's kind of like an intellectual problem to solve, you know, like, and it's done pretty well. A lot of people doing that kind of stuff. So, um, and then Stonemason here is talking about he's been dumping 200 gallons of lactic acid bacteria tea at a time into his pond. It's really helping the clarity and preventing algae blooms this spring. That is amazing. And I'd love to see those pictures and to share that out because that is like the so many people struggle with water quality, and think about it. How many chlorinated pools are out there? And instead, if we went like this probiotic route and had lactobacillus, imagine you go swimming in the pool and instead of having this chlorine that dries out your skin and like kills your microbiome, instead you'd swim in this lactobacillus and you're swimming in like this probiotic, like it's almost like returning to the womb of nourishingness of just increasing your immune system and healing your body and not burning your eyes and just all this amazingness. So I think there's so much potential in the aquatic realms of putting these putting these things out there and these solutions. They're just, when you're talking about Thomas is talking about his friend with water quality, that would be a great study to do with him to say, hey, you're into this, you're a professional. I just have this idea. I'd like you to do the science because I don't know, but I have this idea of something and to test water quality with lactobacillus in it. If it's cleaning out ponds and cleaning out algae, it's like this has huge potential. And if you get it to the right person in the right places, it's like, yeah, that's really what we need. That's what we need. Yeah. And I like that the flat earth goes against sacred geometry totally. Thanks, Mitchell. That's totally true. It does. I believe more in like two triangles interlocking of what makes the earth. And if you look at Mauna Kea, we're at like the perfect latitude for one of those protrusions. If you imagine two interlocking triangles and one of them, there's a point, this mountain that's 14,000 feet behind me that I'm only like 10 miles from, like just rises straight out of the ground. It's like one of those points of that sacred geometry that makes this spheroid from the triangles interlocking, the classic squaring, how do you square the circle, right? They're circling the square. It's two triangles, right? That's the key, right? One of them at least, because triangle has 180 degrees in it. Two triangles makes 360. You still have the squareness of it, but then you also have the roundness of it. It's like one of these classic alchemist things of what they're doing out there. Um, and if you tried to get the app on the Droid, on the Android, I just had to refile with Google. I didn't keep up with the what do you call it, like saying it wasn't for kids kind of thing. They always update their terms of service as developer, and you have to like, when I first launched these apps, it was just like you could just hit publish and it'd be there. Right now you have to say like, oh, I'm going to protect your data, I'm going to protect your children, I'm going to do all. It's like, I don't collect any data through this. I don't, children, it's like, sure, they could use it, but I don't want to say it's for children because then I'd have to like check all these other boxes. It's like, it's wild how this happens. So um and I think Jet Kabi is asking about how much milk that takes. So that's an interesting question. I think if he's diluting it 1 to 1,000 and he's dumping in 200 gallons at a time, it's like, um, you know, what it's 2 gallons per something. I don't know. You should ask him. He has the math. Um, Spencer saying he took an ounce of LAB and a red ginseng in his shampoo. Smart, awesome. It's really and then there's this stuff in Hawaii called avapuhi. It's a special ginger you can put in there. Paul Mitchell made it famous. It's an amazing like it grows wild around here. And when I go down, I have a waterfall on my land. Yes, it's true. I live in Hawaii with a waterfall on our land. When I go down to the waterfall to go swim, I'll always find those gingers and squeeze them out on my head and just rub it in, and it just makes my hair feel so good. And it's just like a natural shampoo. So avapuhi is great. Yeah, salt pools, these ideas, balancing it, natural pools. There's so many solutions out there that are probiotic, pro-life. And I think that's the difference. Like as we move into this new paradigm, this new shift, it's away from the chemicals of like DuPont and Monsanto and these, you know, like in pharmaceuticals into like this paradigm of like probiotic, life, living, and there's so many things that are at our fingertips, that we don't need huge chemical plants for. We can clean water, clean these things, and bring all these things. um cool. Cool. It's it's great when I mention flat earth here and we get to these things, and it's fun to see how much diversity of opinion we have, and how much, like, because I think I see the same world you do, right? And we all think we're seeing the same thing, but we all have these different perspectives. And what's so cool is what can bring us all together is like acceptance and love of that, like just being like, hey, you know like do no harm, like, and love each other in this way of like, yes, like, that's what's going to bring us together, because we all have these difference of opinions, and there's different like science and like official this and that, and it's like that's one of the things I really love about natural farming is, sure, there's a right way and there's a precise way and there's a thing, but it's also so forgiving. If you're partially right, you're right enough that you're going to increase the biology. Could you have done it better? Could you have done it worse? Sure, sure, sure. But the point is your intentions are there. You're like putting this in, you're growing this. You're like anything you're doing to help the earth, to benefit it, to like make it a better place. That's enough. And if your intentions are there and you're doing it, like we all have these different ideas about what's right, what's wrong, and it depends on our culture, how we're raised. There's different ideas about this and that and these things, and our, and I'm not saying like moral relativity, because I did say do no harm and love each other, right? And each person can take that to be different, but it seems to be a somewhat of a general consensus on those things of how we get into it. And I'm just saying like, you're right or wrong or this or that, but I'm saying like as we come together and as we have good intentions, all kinds of us, of differing opinions, different facts, different stages of life, different unfolding, different levels of awakening, different things. This is what makes this so good, and biology is so forgiving. And when you get into it and you understand increasing nutrients, increasing all this, like, this is where we can get into it, right? And so maybe this is a bit of the obstruction, right? We're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like here we are, we're trying to live, and we're stuck between the rock of Earth and a hard place like space, right? You can't go out to, I mean, you go out to space, it's really harsh, right? So naturally, we're stuck in this world of obstruction, right? You're on the rock, but then it's hard out there, and it's like, oh, here we are. And so how can we make the best use of it? And I go back to this I Ching, like what does it say again? I mean, it's like getting rid of oh, I even lost it. I'm not sure which one it was. But it's like innocence, not feeding ourselves on desire, feeding, here, where is it? I can quote from this, number 39 if you're interested. Um but it's saying, you know, one must first retreat. So first off, don't think you know everything. Pull back, and then seek the direction of the sage. Like, so nature, God, like this, that is like us, that is like these sweet people that have come to given us truth and revelations and and unveiling truth to us, right? Like pulling and being like, hey, it's like that's the truth, right? In by nature, we're stuck between this, and emotions like desire, fear, and anger, tempt you to take action. But if you're acting from those places, you're going to ruin yourself, right? It's this love. It's coming from this place of like beauty and everything, the yin yang, sun and moon, yeah, the petri dish we're all in. I mean, this is the thing, you know. Um, Hey, and Brock, yeah, awesome. I'm glad. You can't really make a mistake with this. The raw milk, you're gonna do great, and it's amazing. Um, and the thing is about LAB is I've done it like 100 times, 1,000 times. I don't know, more times than I can count in any reasonable amount, and every time it's slightly different, right? So I'm like, I think I'm doing it to the T, and it's slightly different. It'll smell slightly different. It'll be slightly different. Why? Because I'm actually catching the indigenous, living, loving lacto that are in the air. And they come out of the air and they say, hey, we're here to help you. You've put this starch. We want to help you. But they're a little different each time. So every time it's different. Every time. And there's no right answer. Like you're just there. Good vibes, man, making it work. Um, yeah. So, we're going deep into some geometry here. Yeah, yeah. So thanks, Mason, for those ideas of looking at the, circle from or sphere from above. It looks like a circle and seeing these discs and visible parts. And yeah, everyone lives their own life. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Like if we were all the same, think of how boring that would be. Like it'd be like a bunch of me, and they'd all be awkward with each other, and no one would call each other to hang out, and no one would ask each other for help, and it'd just be like everyone just struggling on their own. It's like, no, then we have diversity of people that like my wife, where she asks for help, and she gets these things, and she seeks in these different ways than I do, and it adds so much to me, so much diversity, so much amazingness. Like that is it. So and Stonemason says, I've been doing my IMO piles in a cedar box. Want to a huge pile in my barn that has a stone floor. Would plywood be good to do a pile on? I would watch out for plywood because plywood tends to be like has a lot of glues and things in there. And not that this is bad or anything, but depends. Definitely wouldn't do it on like particle board that's smashed together, but if you could, get some soil and put it into your barn to make a little like 6-inch layer between the floor and where you're doing it. Um, you know, yeah, wouldn't don't do it on concrete. It'll eat your concrete away. It'll be really bad. But yeah, putting down something like that. I've done it before where I put down cardboard, even like big refrigerator box, and done it on top of that. Problem with that is it gets a little bit moist, and then the refrigerator box kind of, you start to get through it with a shovel and things. But anything like that seems reasonable. It's like you want as natural of a thing as possible. I'm not going to hate on the plywood. If that's what you got, go for it. It'll probably work out well. That piece of plywood, however, will probably not be good for building with anymore at that point. I don't recommend building materials and IMO mixing, or doing IMO under your house or somewhere where it's going to start to like eat away your foundation or eat away your building materials. I right now am dealing with an issue where my roof gets this mold on it, and it's because I did too much IMOs near my house, and the mold started. Like it's IMOs. It's like I say, it's mold. It's. I don't think it's black mold or anything bad. It's just, and then I have to go clean it with vinegar about every 8 months or so. I got to get up there with vinegar and lactobacillus and kind of just knock it back. And it's because the moisture and then the heat and how it heats up. And so just be careful of doing too much IMOs around things that you want to last a long time, because the IMOs will penetrate, and their whole deal is to decompose and recycle nutrients and make them available for other things and transport them around. So usually buildings we want to have last a long time. And so there can be a little bit of incompatibility there. So yeah, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in here. We got a couple more questions here of just what's going on. Also, I'll answer those, but also want to put a shout out to the Pure KNF Foundation. It's at pureknf.org, and that's the organization that this logo right there is from. And I mean, it's part of me doing this thing. I was kind of watching Minority Mindset, and it's like, where do I separate myself from my company of what I'm doing? it's just, I got KNF love, man. It's I want to share it. And so, but it is a foundation, it is a nonprofit, and it does help sponsor these and make it, really worth my time. Also sponsored by you guys. If you want to throw super chats or thanks down in the bottom, if you're watching this later, you can always do that. Google does take a percentage of that. I think it's about 30%. So you can also go to naturalfarminghawaii.net and drop a donation there. And Stripe only takes us like 2.5% from me, so it's a little bit better. I get a little bit more of that money, and it's just Federal Reserve notes, but it's what matters, right? Oh, thanks for the 99 cents. Yo, that's great. That's great. I really, yeah, like, even it all helps. It all bigs us up, and it's that reciprocal relationship that we can build that makes us all perfect and all that. So anyway, I just throw that out there as a reminder. It's not like I'm saying you got to do it. I'm just saying, thankful for everyone that helps to make this happen. Thanks for you showing up. And I'm gonna take two more questions before I jump out, maybe three, because I got this humic acid. So I'm gonna answer the humic acid one first. Get worms. As you get worms, there's juice that drips out. That's some of the best humic acid. Use it while it's fresh and use that. If you don't have worms, you don't want to do that, get a compost that's good, run water through it. The brown water that comes out, collect it, run it through again. Run it through again. Don't spray it real hard, try and knock all this stuff off. Just run it through passively. The water will get browner and browner and browner. As it comes out really brown, now you got good humic acid. So, real simple way to make it passively from compost or the worm farm is one of the best. Humic and fulvics and all this. Worms are just amazing. So two more questions here. Yeah, and Goofman was mentioning to put it up on a pallet or something. That's a good idea. So Sweeter Than Anything is saying, made my first LAB a couple of weeks ago, and it's still fizzy, getting some brown stuff on top that brewers would probably call cam yeast. Skimmed a couple times, put on a bubbler airlock lid. Is that okay? Sweeter Than Anything, did you super saturate it? This isn't some people that teach on YouTube don't talk about this, but look at my videos, click on the channel, just the link right there, the Drake Pure KNF, and go look at my featured videos. One of them is how to super saturate. Watch that video and super saturate your lactobacillus, because it sounds like maybe you didn't, and if you did, I'm not sure. Maybe the other thing to do is to run it through a really fine filter, like a t-shirt, and really get that curds out of there. And don't press your curds into it. Like, run it through a fine filter, super fine filter, and then super saturate it. And I think those will solve those problems for you. And then last thing, Eyewitness is trying to find a spot for a pile, but I'll have to rip up the grass wherever I do, so I can have a smooth floor to scrape and the shovel on. Eyewitness Thomas, man, just do it on the grass. Don't worry, you'll mix a little bit of that grass in, it'll be fine. Just do it on the top. No need to dig down. Just do it on the top of the grass. The grass right there will probably die because of the heat by the time it's done. But if that's okay, you can make a spot in your yard. Just do it on top. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So, yeah. Good luck with that and doing it. It's nice to see you guys all doing this. And yeah, thanks for all the blessings. Thanks, Mitchell. Yeah, I'll say hi to Suze for y'all, and she's just a sweetheart, and we had such a fun time. So hopefully, maybe I'll get some pictures, share those things, see how these things are going. Really appreciate you guys tuning in, and yeah. So yeah, wanna just thank you guys for doing this. So all right, cool. I will see you next week. I believe I'll be here. What will be the June 7 plus 5 is 13, 12, 12, 13. Oh man, it's hard, the millennial math, man. I gotta tune in my brain and get that going. Whatever it is, next Sunday I will see you 9 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time. In the meantime, God bless you. Long live the natural farmer, and yeah, love to you and everyone you encounter this week. So appreciate you. Aloha. Bye now.